I mean, if you look at our journey as Safaricom, Spark Fund has been there since about 2015. We got approvals from the board last year to more than increase the size by 5 times. And even then, the feedback we have is that we'll be happy to look at even larger level of funds. So we actually haven't set up as a closed-end fund in terms of only this amount of money is going to be disbursed. The way we were approaching this is what are the good opportunities, what are the good startups, the people we've gotten comfort around their business plan, their strategy, their governance, how we can support them from a technology perspective, and we'll support them to whatever extent is actually required for the good business, right? Over and above that, with partners like now Sumitomo who have now joined us and other partners who began engaging, we actually have a fairly large ecosystem of partners who can provide funding, whether it's in equity or on debt. So it's not a closed fund. It's a platform where we'll engage, we'll vet, we'll support, we will help develop, and on the back of that, funding will be in essence what's going to be required for business.
Yeah, because I think my follow-up question was then, is Safaricom particularly looking to pump in or inject a bit of capital into some of these startups? And if so, how much are you looking a startup or cumulatively? And also just tied to that question, is this an equity investment? Is it a grant, or what is the arrangement?
Okay, so as I indicated, there is no limit on the size of the fund, in the sense that each opportunity will be looked at and reviewed in its own right, and based on that, we will participate to what would be a reasonable and appropriate level. Don't forget these are startups, all right? So the funding requirements will evolve over a period of time. Now, we have taken stakes as it is on several companies on equity. As I mentioned in my presentation, about 10 companies or thereabouts, we actually have taken equity stakes in those companies. And over and above that, we have, for example, through our Tech for Development platform, invested in a few other early stage companies. The point for us isn't the equity. The point for us is how can we leverage what we have in this market, right? About 40 million customers, our M-Pesa footprint, the technology platform that we have. For instance, we have about 800 developers and technology developers who now work with us or who work for us, over and above people who support us on the M-Pesa side as well. So it's a large ecosystem who can help you with the tech, who can help validate your opportunities, who can then with our partners help on the business plan, on the business case. And from a funding perspective, you've seen today a couple of the banks are here. They are very keen to participate on debt, and of course our partners who are also willing to pay equity in the right opportunities.
Just before I let my colleagues in on this, there's also the question of how do you go about risk assessment? Because with any investment, there's a risk associated with that. So what do some of these startups need to get in order before coming to you?
It's a very good question. My previous career I was a banker, so the risk assessment is a very key component. That's why we're having the accelerator, right? Because it's not just walking in and I want X and we give you X. It's going to be, what's your business plan? What's your governance? Get someone like PwC to help you. What's your tax construct? What's your financial reporting construct? How can we help you build those things in totality? So that equity and let me add to that, which is how do we help you build your business case, right? In the sense of is there a right market? Is there a route to market? Are you able to access that market at a way or at a cost that is reasonable? Is there scalability? Is there a regional market for your products, etc.? And based on that, you could have then a view of what your revenue projections are going to be. You're going to have a view of what your potential market capacity is going to be. Therefore, you will have a view of what your cash flow potential can potentially look like. You then have a sense of what your funding requirements and funding needs are then going to be. So the entire ecosystem is driven by the fact that how do we help you think through your business a lot more? how do you help you navigate some of the pitfalls and the challenges and the construct issues that have challenged a number of the companies historically, and help you increase the chances of success, right? In addition to the fact that there's funding that is going to be available.
Okay, I'd like to know how many tech companies that you're targeting to incubate in the first cohort, and I'd like you to be specific in terms of how many.
Well, I wish I could be less specific because it depends on how many come in, in terms of the applications and how many get reviewed. Our aspiration is that we are able to do this every, I'd say, year to 18 months. So you have a cohort you bring on board, whether it's 10, whether it's 20, whether it's 30, right? You've brought them on board, you've gone through the process with them, you've walked the journey with them, they've stabilized, they begin to scale, they're accessing the market, and then looking at further funding rounds or wider access to capital. And then once that cohort is gone, we'll then move on to a new cohort and a new set of potential investee companies. But the point isn't how many we're looking at, because as I mentioned earlier on, it isn't a closed-end fund. Right? We've got access to not just our own capital as Safaricom, but partners who are willing to provide capital to this. You've seen Sumitomo, you've seen the banks, you've seen other partners willing to put in capital to this. So there's no limit in terms of how much money, right? It's more a question of what's the right ideas, what's the right construct, how can we help you make this a long-term viable company? How, for example, can we help you with our market access in terms of, as I said, our 40 million plus customers, our reach across the country, etc. Those are the things that are going to help you reach your market. Those are the things that are going to help entrepreneurs scale up better and scale up in a way that is long-term sustainable. I really like the comment that was made by the team at Sumitomo, and so, the fact that they're a 400-plus-year-old company, right? That we're here to run a marathon, not to run a sprint. So how do you make it possible for our emergent companies to emerge, grow, run the marathon, run the generational marathon, become the unicorns of the future because of long-term sustainable businesses?
We are in the era of AI and sustainability. Are those areas that probably are going to be biased towards as you roll out this program here?
Absolutely. I think it's a good question. I think the way we look at it is we're more focused on technology, because don't forget we are fundamentally a technology telco company, and that's where our level of expertise and comfort is. So the companies that are focused in that space would be very much interested in finding how we can support them, right? But the good thing about technology is that it's not narrow, right? There's technology in for example, issues like logistics. There's technology in fintechs and payments and lending. There's technology in agriculture. There's technology in how you access your market or customer service, or there's a very wide universe in that sort of space. And emerging technology like AI and machine learning and we're just seeing now as new emerging technologies, we'd be very much interested in supporting those sort of opportunities, because that's definitely going to be more of the future. And we can get more companies, more Kenyan companies playing that role in that future and helping them scale. I think we've done our job.
And so, Michael, just to take you back to the specificity, and this is something that you've talked about, the funds that you have in your kitty. Do you have a specific ticket size for some of these companies, saying that as Safaricom, this is how much we're willing to distribute the funds that we have?
So, of course, we'll be prudent in terms of how we have shareholders, we do have our obligations. There isn't a minimum ticket size, there isn't a maximum ticket size, right? The direction we have from our partners and our stakeholders is we will look at an appropriate level of investment for where that level of the company level is, right? And as I said, it's a startup, right? So, depending on the startup, is the right number 10 million shillings, the right number 50 million shillings, the right number 100 million shillings? This process of going through the accelerator will help you find what that number looks like.
How do they enroll?
So we provide a link, right? It's at safaricom.co.ke/Spark Accelerator. right? And there's the QR code as well that you can just scan and log in and take you straight to